Alright, welcome back guys. I kind of had a little boo-boo on my first video, so I'm redoing it. So I have some stuff already written, but I don't really want to waste ink and paper. So we have 4.2 notes, understanding slope intercept form, so your warm-up. First thing I want you to do is find the slope of this line. So on your paper you can probably see it better, but you can do your little counts up, down. Remember, slope is rise over run. Okay. So this is the point for 0 and 0, 3, so those are the 2 points you're looking at. Okay, that's the first question in your warm-up. The second question is, what is the slope of a line through the points 2, 4, and 5, 9? Okay, now remember to find the slope just with 2 points. You have your formula. Remember, slope is rise over run, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so look back at your notes if you've forgotten how to do this already. Okay, this is 4.1. Okay, this might be something too that you want on your note card. Okay, you should make it as you go, not at the last minute. All right, we're going to talk about some vocab. So if I'm looking at a graph, I kind of already drew the graph. If I'm looking at a line, the y-intercept is where the line intersects at the y-axis. So if I kind of look at this graph, I'm going to kind of cover this part up. And the line keeps going on forever here. It's where it crosses the y-axis. Remember, this is the y-axis here. Okay. Now the x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. Remember, this is the x-axis here. Okay, so it's this point right here. And you always look with the x-intercept, you look at the x point, and the y-intercept, you look at the y point. And you can kind of shorthand y-intercept. We can write as y-int. See how it kind of has int here and then int. Okay. Now slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. That's a formula we're going to be using to represent the equation of each of these lines, no matter what direction it's going here. Okay, we're going to have y equals mx plus b. And we're going to talk more about that in our video. So, moving on, if you need to pause at any time, please do so. Now your graph is going to look a little different than mine because I made boo-boo. So you're going to do it on your actual graph. We're going to look at this. It says graph the following on the same graph, then compare and contrast the lines. Okay, so I have my handy dandy graph. My x's are counted 1 through 6, which is 1 through 6 here. And I'm sorry, your graph is correct, or your table is correct, but this is supposed to be 0, 4, 8, then 12, 16, 20, 24, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Okay, not really sure why I did that, but Google's weird sometimes. So we're looking at the time in seconds, and then Jim's distance from the curb, and then Sam's distance from the curb. So I'm going to have two different lines. Jim is going to be blue, and I'm going to plot these points, and Sam is going to be red. So the x is 0, and the y is 0. So I'm looking at these points. So 0, 0. At 1, I'm at 4. And notice I'm counting by 2, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 on my y-axis here, because I don't have as much room. Okay. You might go a little bit off your graph, because your graph might be a little small, and that's okay. Then 2, 8. 2, 8 here. And then I'm going to have 3, 12. So 12 is about there. I don't have those fancy lines that you guys have. 16 is about here. 5 is at 20, which is about here. And 6 is at 24. Okay, which is about right there. Okay. And then I'm going to use my handy straight edge, and I'm going to actually draw this out. Now mine is not perfect because I don't have those nice gridlock lines, but we're going to get close here. Okay, so this is Jim. Okay. Now Sam is at 0, 4, at 1, 8, 2, 12, 3 is at 16, I believe. 4 is at 20. 5 is at 24. And 6 is at 28. Okay, so I kind of see his line here. And again, sorry, they're a little wonky, but okay. So this is Sam's distance from the curve. So if you notice these, we have approximately the same slope going, right? Okay. But if you notice here, their y-intercepts are different. This y-intercept is 0, and this y-intercept is 4. So the y-intercept for this one is equal to 0, and the y-intercept here is equal to 4. That's going to be very important when we're looking at our slope-intercept form, okay? So remember, the y-intercept is just where it intercepts the y-axis, and it's the y point. So here it's at 0 for the y point, here it's at 4 for the y point. Okay? So they have about the same slope, but different intercepts, y-intercepts specifically. Okay? So if I were to actually look at the equation of this line for Sam, this would be set up in y equals mx plus b. Okay? And this one is y equals mx. Right? I'm going to explain why they're like that in just a second. But you can kind of see the y-intercept here is not there because it's 0, and this one does have a y-intercept. That's why the b is there, okay? But we're going to actually go through some problems now, okay? So it's just kind of an example to show you the difference between two lines and what's similar and what's different, okay? All right, so now comes the part where I'm going to talk about what is the m and what is the b in these. I've never seen this before, okay? So if you've never seen this before, that's okay. So we have some equations that are y equals mx, okay? That's where the y-intercept is 0. So that would be Jim's line here. That his y-intercept was 0. That's why he's mx plus b, or mx, I'm sorry. And then y equals mx plus b, which we already talked about a little bit. And that's where the y-intercept is something other than 0. It's 1, -1, 5, a million, whatever, okay? So what does the b stand for in the equation? That is the y-intercept. Okay, so you should fill that in, the y-intercept. Okay, what does the m stand for in the equation? Okay, the m stands for the slope. Now, you guys already know how to find slope. We talked about that last chapter, okay? If you're given 2 points, you use the equation. If you are given the graph, you can count the different spots. So the y-intercept, and I'm just going to write this off to the side so you guys remember what they all stand for. The y-intercept is the b part, and the slope is the m part. And just in case you forgot, what are the x and y standing for in the equation? Typically, you leave the x and y alone. You don't actually put numbers in unless you're trying to solve something. But these are just your ordered pairs, okay? These are all the other numbers on the line. So here my x would be 1 and my y would be 4. Here my x would be 3 and my y would be 16, okay? So that's just the rest of the line, okay, is the x and y part. Okay, the ordered pairs, pairs. There's an ED on that one, okay? So that's what all that is. Now if I keep going here, they're going to start asking you, they're going to have you write an equation for a graph, okay? Let me zoom out all the way there. There we go, okay? So you should be reading this along with me because you obviously can't see it all the way in the video. So this is how you would write an equation for a line. I wrote some steps. So step 1, and step 1 and 2 you can kind of flip-flop, but it's up to you. So find the slope, m. Remember, slope is m. Remember from 4.1 how to find the slope using the graph. Remember, you can count the spots, rise over run, or you can use the equation. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So again, that should be on your note cards. You can just spell it out. Step 2, find the y-intercept. Okay, and that's just the y point where it's crossing the y-axis. Okay, then step 3, you're going to plug m and b into y equals mx plus b. So let's do an example, because I'm sure some of you are like, that's very abstract, Ms. Hosbeck. I have no idea what you're talking about. So let's do one. So if I look at this graph, this is not graphed on your paper, so you need to graph it. Okay, so I have the point 1, 2, and -1, -2. So go ahead and plot those. Notice I am crossing the origin here. Okay, so that's going to come handy. So I'm going to find my slope. Okay, now since it's already graphed for me nicely, it's a very nice graph. I won't do the equation this time. I'll just start counting my spots here. So my rise is 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. So my slope, which is m, is going to be 4 over 1, 2. I went over 2 spots, which is just 2. So just to make my life easier, I'm going to write m equals 2, and I'm going to circle that because that's going to be important to me. Now I want to look at the y-intercept, okay? Remember, the y-intercept is my b. So I'm just going to look on the y-axis until I see where it crosses, and that's kind of where I highlighted it in red already. Now this point is 0, 0. So the y-coordinate is 0. So b equals 0. And again, I'm going to kind of put this in a nice little box so I have it. Okay? So now I want to write it in the form y equals mx plus b. I know what M is and I know what B is, so I'm going to plug those in. I don't know what Y is, so Y is just going to stay Y. Equals M becomes 2. So don't write M anymore because M equals 2.